All right, thanks. It's an absolute honor to address this room. And what I'm going to talk about are the events that took me from being in a hospital, much as many of you all were, and to being here in this room with you. And hopefully we'll get something out of it along the way here. I joined the Marine Corps in 1986. And one of the first Marines I served under was a fellow named Corporal Lascaris. And he had this story he told me, because you know when you first get in, you learn about all the X's and O's, you learn Semper Fi, always faithful, faithful God, country, and Corps. Well, Corporal Lascaris used to have a twist on that. And he used to say, Pop, he said, this job's about being a 0400 Marine. Anybody can sit out here in the middle of a sunshiny day and say Semper Fi, hoorah, be motivated. That's easy. Anybody can do that. He said the real Marine is that one at 0400 when you're cold, you're tired, you're wet, you're wounded, whatever it is, when you're up against adversity, that one who's Semper Fi then, the one who believes in it then. That's the real Marine. That's who you want to be. So I took this really to heart, and I spent my entire Marine Corps time always looking for those 0400 moments. I always wanted to be that guy that when it was up against the wall, I was going to show up. I was going to be there. So I spent my whole time looking for the 0400 moment. And as I grew in rank and these sorts of things, I kind of put my own little twist on it to what I would teach my Marines. I teach them the same thing Corporal Lascaris had taught me, but I also added one more little thing to it. And it's from a piece of Marine Corps history. And on October 23rd, 1983, a truckload of explosives drove by 2 gate guards in Beirut, Lebanon, and killed 243 United States Marines. Blew up next to a building, killed 240 plus Marines. And I never met these 2 gate guards. I don't know anything about them. And probably never will meet them. But I always figured that these 2 guys would give everything they ever had to get that 10 seconds of time back when that truck drove by them. But they're never going to get it. So I would tell my Marines, that 0400 moment, it doesn't come at 0400, it doesn't come when you want it to. You don't know when it's going to come. So you always got to be ready for that 0400 moment and be ready to step up to the plate. So that's kind of how I guided my Marines, how I tried to live my life. I ended up serving with the 1st Marine Division in OIF 1. I was a tank commander with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, attached to 7th Marine Regiment. So we had part of the spearhead going up to Baghdad. And it was kind of neat listening to a lot of the captain's stories earlier about the sandstorm and all that. And I was chuckling when he was talking about the sandstorm, because when that sandstorm lifted, my battalion commander popped his head out of his tank and he said, "What's next, locust?" You know? So, but things went pretty good for us. The 1st Tank Battalion, it was, tanks against what they had, things were pretty good for us. So life was good. We got to Baghdad, and we got to Baghdad. There was some that happened there that I got to be privileged to be part of, and it was very transformative to me as a Marine. As we were rolling into Baghdad, because going up there, for those of you who were on the march up, the civilians were everywhere. They were trying to get out of the way, or they were coming out trying to greet the Americans, and because these civilians were this big unknown. But when we got to Baghdad, they just disappeared. It became like a ghost town, and it was just like driving through these empty streets, and we were in the lead, so we did what Marines do. We just kept taking ground. We got to downtown Baghdad, we got to Firdos Square, and they had to, you remember they had those images of Saddam everywhere, which is really funny for us, because we don't do that here. And we got to where the Marines had little nicknames for him and all that. Like the white suit Saddam, we used to call that Fantasy Island Saddam and all that. We had all these things. Well, there's a big statue of Saddam, big 40-foot statue. And many of you may have seen the Marines pull this statue down. Well, I was fortunate that was my unit that did that. Now, okay, that doesn't liberate a city or anything, but I just want to tell you a couple things from that day that were really special to me. Remember, there was a flag that went over Saddam's head, American flag that went over his head. And everybody said it was, a faux pas internationally or whatever. Anybody who doesn't understand a bunch of Marines putting up a flag in Baghdad, I really don't care what they think anyway. But I want to tell you the background of that flag. My platoon commander was a fellow named Lieutenant McLaughlin. Lieutenant Mack was your standard 2nd lieutenant, 1 each, out of New Hampshire, joined the Marine Corps, became a Marine officer. He was assigned as a tank officer. He went to AOB, Armor Officer Basic School, and he broke his leg. Broke his leg while he was in training. So we can't send a broken 2nd lieutenant out to the fleet. It's a bad leadership model. You can't have a lieutenant on light duty. So they had to do something with him. They sent him to the Pentagon to work. Well, he's a 2nd lieutenant. He don't know anything, so he's not going to be able to do anything at the Pentagon. So he just pretty much fetches coffee for the generals is what he does. And he rehabilitates his leg. And he starts getting better on his leg, better on his leg. He finally gets where he can start PTing because he's a motivated 2nd lieutenant, wants to get out to the fleet. Finally gets where he can start running on this leg. When he goes out for a run, That day was September 11, 2001. Plane came in, struck the Pentagon. Young Lieutenant McLaughlin ran back, assisted the rescue relief, did what everybody there did. The next day, he did what everybody else did also. He started training for war, training to go out to the fleet and do what all of us were going to do. So he got well enough to leave. And when he got ready to leave, the commanding general there from the Marine detachment there in the Pentagon, he knows where Lieutenant Mack's going. He's going to 1st Tank Battalion. He knows that's going to be a spearhead unit on this because they write the war plan there. So they fold up the American flag from the Marine detachment. They give it to young Lieutenant Mack, and they say, you get to Baghdad, find somewhere good to put that. And that's the one that went over Saddam's head. So I think young Lieutenant Mack accomplished that mission in the most meritorious manner. For me, though, I was watching this whole event unfold down there in Fertile Square. And there was just something about it. I just knew I was watching something special, something impacting on a world scale. And as a Marine, you know things you do every day are important, but this one I just knew was going to be something special. And I was watching these people, and what I was seeing was these people celebrating, these Iraqi civilians. They were celebrating alongside of the Marines. And what I realized I was looking at people just tasting freedom, who've never known a day's freedom in their entire lives. And I was looking at this and thinking, wow, this is amazing. And another thought hit me while I was watching this, and I was in my late 30s by this point, that I'd never known a day in my life without freedom. I'd never known a day in my life that was their experience right there. And I was just thinking just what a special thing this is to be a Marine, to be an American, to cherish what we have so much that we go halfway around the world to take it to other people who've never known it. And I don't know, everybody's got their own reasons for why they do what they do or whatever, but for me, that's when that war took on a significance to me that I love being part of this mission. I believe in it. We all know as Marines, you don't get to pick your mission. You only get to control how well you do it. But if I could pick what my mission would be, this would be it. When I was 18 years old and I signed up for the Marine Corps, if they'd have told me someday you're going to be halfway around the world commanding a tank, helping liberate oppressed people, I said, oh, hell yes, sign me up. That's what I want to do with my life. So I love this mission. I loved everything about what we were doing. But we all know knocking out a statue doesn't liberate a country. So there was going to be a lot of heavy lifting ahead. The following year, I'd find myself in Fallujah. I was still commanding a tank. I was with a different unit, though. This time I was out with 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. Command a tank, and I love this mission. Now, just to give you some historical context to it, it was a first battle for Fallujah. Remember when the 4 American contractors were murdered and their bodies were desecrated? Well, I was stationed outside of Fallujah, so that's when we went in. And the game plan was we were going to go in there, police call up the bad guys one time and be done with Fallujah. All right, this is exactly what I love. This is General Mattis to a T right here. No better friend, no worse enemy. Now we're going to end the no worse enemy part. Now I'm not going to tell you war stories about Fallujah because we got a lot of trigger pullers in this room, and you all got way better war stories than I got. But what I'll say is that the battle went really well for our side. Because we all know the counterinsurgency, the hardest thing to do is to find them. And if they want to come out in the open and fight with us, that's exactly what we do well as Marines. So I was up in the Jolan district. I was commanding a tank. I had a wingman behind me. I was operating with a platoon of infantry. Things were going good. I was in contact. I just made contact with a squad-sized group of insurgents. Engaged with machine gun. Took down half of them. The other half fled down a street. So I pursued. I had a tank behind me. Now we're moving too fast. We left our infantry back. We leave them back if we're going to move really fast. I start going down this street, pursuing about half a dozen insurgents now. They're going doorway to doorway, just trying to get the heck away from this tank. Street's narrowing down, narrowing down, narrowing down. It gets so narrow I can't even traverse my gun tube anymore. But no problem. I got 2 machine guns up top. Me and my loader were still in the fight. We're going to continue. We're not going to let them get away. You know how it is with these insurgents. You let them go, then somebody else is going to have to fight them tomorrow. So I keep pursuing. I'm heading into an intersection. It's about 1 in the afternoon, April 7th, 2004. You'd have said to me, Gunny, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I'd have said, this is it right now. This is everything in life I've ever wanted to be. I'm a tank commander. I'm a career Marine. I'm a gunny. I'm over here doing this mission I love. Life doesn't get any better than this. I'll do this for the rest of my life. Life was going to have a change in store for me in that intersection. Good place to get hit from the flanks, I know that, but I'm commanding the best tank in the world, M1A1 main battle tank. So I take my loader, I put him down below the armor line, I hunkered down myself, I got what I call alligator level, I just got my eyeballs up above the turret ring, and I head in the intersection. I scan to my right for enemy. There's one up there, he's on a rooftop. He's about 50 feet out. He's got a rocket in his shoulder. He's already got his finger on the trigger. He's ready to squeeze it off. Now, by this point, I had a pretty healthy disrespect for our enemy's ability to fight over there. I used to joke with my Marines. I'd say, if they're shooting at you, you're perfectly safe. If they're shooting at somebody around you, you better find some cover because then you're in danger. But even at this range, he's not going to miss. He's looking at the whole flank of the tank. He's about 50 feet away. So he squeezed off his rocket. No problem. It comes in, hits the right front of my turret, explodes, doesn't do nothing. Can't penetrate M1A1 main battle tank. So I go into my machine gun. I'm traversing over to engage him. I figured it's caliber 50. You know, that building might as well be made out of paper. He's not getting away. And as I was doing that, then I heard a hiss of another rocket. We all know that noise. Like a snake hiss, as it cuts through the air. And bam! Felt like I got hit in the head with a sledgehammer. I saw this white flash of light, like a camera flash, like somebody put a camera right in my eye and flashed it, then nothing, just blackness. I couldn't hear anything. My hearing had been knocked out. All I could hear was like a static, like, just a real weird ringing in my ears. I knew I was still alive, and amazingly enough, I knew what had just happened to me. For somehow I was cognizant enough to know that I'd just been hit in the head by a rocket-propelled grenade. And I knew I was still conscious. So I did what Marines do. I figured just some things could just come natural, so I just got up. I got back up on my feet. But I didn't really know what to do then. I was a little punch drunk. But I did know that we had to move. I used to drill that into my Marines. You get hit, what do? They say, move, Gunny, move. Because if the enemy hits you once, you don't move, he's going to hit you again. So I knew we had to move. So I started looking, and I couldn't see. I was blinded. What had happened is one of my eyes had been blown completely out of my head, and the other one had been blown down to my sinus cavity. Don't worry, the story's got a good ending. So hang in there. It's going to get better. So I knew we had to move, but I couldn't see to direct the tank. So I looked for my gunner, because he's got a 4-man crew, and I started looking around for this fellow. Corporal Chambers was his name. I'm saying, Chambers, Chambers, and I'm looking around for him inside his turret. I know where his gunner's position is, because he's perfectly safe down in there. And he wasn't there. I couldn't find him. Empty chair where he's supposed to be. Because what this Marine had done, when he saw the Gunny bleeding to death on the turret floor, he left his position of safety, and went up and took command of that tank to save my life. It was his 0-4 in a moment, and he stepped up. He got up there and started taking command of that tank. So I started looking around for that loader, that fellow I'd put down below the armor line, Lance Corporal Hernandez, 1st Combat Tour, Fallujah. Say, Hernandez, Hernandez. I couldn't find him either. Because what he'd done, when he seen the Gunny down on the turret floor bleeding to death, he got back up on his machine gun. We were in the lead. We all know attack's like a one-way street. If we back up, we're gonna put the Marines behind us in jeopardy. There was only one way to go, and that was forward. These 2 Marines knew it. And they got up and got on their machine guns and got to work. I couldn't see them, but if I could have, I'd have seen both these Marines were wounded also. Both of them had taken shrapnel from the same grenade that hit me. I couldn't see it, but if I could have, I'd have seen the top of the tank was on fire. And there they were with the tank on fire, man and machine guns, fighting to save my life at their 0-4 in a moment. But they had to get me to a medevac site, because we don't carry corpsmen on the tanks. They had to get me to a corpsman. So they didn't know where they were. They didn't know how to get there. We were in the middle of the city. The driver, Lance Corporal Frias, 19 years old. Year before he was at his high school senior prom. Fallujah, 1st Combat Tour. He says, I know the way. Lance Corporal Frias got us to that medevac site, and I'm alive today because of those 3 Marines at their 0-4 in a moment. I got to the medevac site. They pull me off the tank. They start working on me. The corpsman, he's applying direct pressure because I got a few pretty good holes going on in my head. A lot of class 3 leaks coming out of my head. So he's working on me. He's applying a direct pressure, and he's doing what we all do, because we've all done this. We've all rendered first aid. He's saying, hey, Gunny, you married, you got kids, where are you from? He's making all this chit-chat with me. And if you've ever been shot in the head, it makes you very nauseous. I was sick to my stomach. I said, look, man, I was cognizant enough to know what he was doing. He was reassuring the casualty. So I said, look, man, I know what you're doing. I'm fine. I'm not going to go into shock. The only thing hurting me right now is talking to you, because I'm sick to my stomach. He said, it's cool, Gunny, it's cool. And he kept working away, and he kept that constant contact with me, so I knew he was there. And I had this strange, just peaceful feeling because I knew that now that I was here with my Marines, my team, that everything was going to be all right. I just had this feeling that everything was good. And then the chief came over. I know he's a chief because of the way he started yelling at this corpsman. He lit him up. He starts, I thought I told you to talk to him, and he's screaming at him, right? And now I wanted just this peace and harmony thing going on in my medevac site, so I didn't want the corpsman to start getting yelled at anymore, and the corpsman didn't want to get yelled at, so he starts asking me the same questions. Hey, Gunny, married, you got kids? You know, he's the same lineup. So I started trying to answer him, so I didn't want him to get yelled at no more, and then I threw up over on both of these guys. Let it go. I lit them up. So right after I threw up on these guys, I start feeling this weight being piled on me like they're trying to bury me. I mean, it literally felt like somebody was trying to bury me. I said, what are you doing? They said, we're being mortar attacked, Gunny. And what they were doing, they were taking off every piece of body armor they had that was protecting them and piling it on me to give me that just slightly better chance of making it. To have courage, honor, commitment, 0-400 moments. And I spent my time looking for these things, and I was a witness to just some great ones right then. But for me, I was totally blind, so my days in Iraq are ended. I ended up going to, we call it the animal hospital there. I don't, those of you served in the Fallujah AO, that's what we used to call it back then, it was the animal hospital. I went from there, then I wake up in Landstuhl, Germany. Wake up in Germany, and once again, I'm thinking, okay, this is my 0-400 moment. I'm sitting here blind in a hospital in Germany. Gunny's not going to feel sorry for himself. This is a 0-400 moment. This is time for me to step up to the plate. So I talked to the Marine across me, Corporal Talbert. I kind of let the pack off a little bit. I call him Corporal Sean, call him by his first name, you know. A little bit of dirtbagginess. So I say, Corporal Sean, I said, we got to get up. We got to get out of these racks. We got to start forming like a unit here, like a platoon, Marine platoon. He says, I can't walk, Gunny. He'd taken a rocket over there in Iraq also, and he had a lot of lower body damage. His legs were wrecked. He couldn't walk. I said, okay, Sean. I said, can you see? He says, yeah, Gunny, I can see. I said, okay, stand by. So I went and got a wheelchair. We dumped Sean in a wheelchair. I became the legs, and Sean became my eyes. So this was a workable solution. Everything's good. I'm thinking this is 0-400 moment. This is what 0-400 Marines do. But things are going to keep moving for me because if you got damage to the eyesight, they speed you back stateside pretty quickly. So my next stop was Bethesda. I'm in Bethesda. Now the Marine next to me, he's totally deaf and I'm totally blind. So it's not as easy a situation as it was with Corporal Talbert back there. It's a lot harder to work around. So Face peeks into our room. He says, Assistant Commandant Marine Corps is coming in to visit you too. Very well. So General Nyland walks in. He says, how you doing, Gunny? Good, sir. You know, that's what Gunny's are. I could have been bleeding out of my jugular. Good, sir. I'm good. So he moves on to the Marine next to me. His name's Corporal Ortiz. How are you doing, Marine? And they're communicating through notes because he can't, through written because he can't hear. Good, sir. Did the same thing. And he says, how'd you get wounded? And this is a story that came out of Corporal Ortiz's mouth, and it's just flat out amazing. Corporal Ortiz was on patrol over there in Iraq. He's an infantry fellow in a squad. Fell in his squad and got hit. Got hit by a sniper, was down, leg wound, not life-threatening, just can't move. Squad goes firm, they start working up a medevac on this Marine. Everything's working just as per normal. Now, a hand grenade comes over a wall, lands 10 feet from that wounded Marine. He can't run, he can't do nothing, he's just stuck. So Corporal Ortiz, who was in a position of safety, goes out to that Marine's aid. Now, Corporal Ortiz, he's a lot smarter than me, because this is what that Marine did. He went out there and he positioned him. First, he turned that Marine to make that small silhouette for that impending grenade blast. And then he started using his own body to cover up all the parts that weren't covered by that Marine's body armor. He was protecting that Marine with his very life. And then, as this grenade's getting ready to go off, Ortiz says the only thing he couldn't cover is he couldn't cover his own face and neck because you just don't have enough body armor. He said, well, I'm just going to have to take one for the team. And he waited for that grenade to fuse out. While he was waiting, that other Marine wrestled his arm free from Ortiz and covered up Ortiz's face and neck with his arm. Grenade went off. There's Corporal Ortiz laying in a rack next to me, full of shrapnel, but alive. The General says, God, Marine, that's an amazing story. What happened to the other guy? He's right over there, sir. He was a Marine on the other side of me. Every day in the Corps, and especially in the hospital, will absolutely humble you. And I know all of you felt that. I know you've seen that in the hospital. It'll absolutely humble you to the caliber of Marine that you have the privilege of serving alongside of. And in my case, I've had the privilege of my adult life serving alongside of the greatest this nation has to offer. Absolutely humbling. So, but life moves on. So the next day in the hospital, these 3 Lance Corporals, privates, PFCs, three Marines come in to find me, 3 young Marines. They say, you're a gunny, right? Because remember, you get everything cut off you, so you don't have no uniform anymore. I got a head wound, so I got sutures all through my head, so I got some hair growing now. I got sutures through my face, so I got the whole Chuck Norris beard thing going on. I'm looking like anything but a United States Marine Corps gunny. They say, you're a gunny, right? I say, yeah, I'm a gunny. They say, you probably like coffee. I say, I love coffee. They say, we're going to go get some. You want to come with us? I say, sure. So they become my C&I Marine, and they guide me through Hillendale, and we go get this coffee. 3 days in a row, they keep coming back to get me every morning to go get this coffee. Now, when you're blind, you got a lot of time to think, and your mind will play tricks on you. So I'm going to do a real genius move here, and I start thinking, well, these Marines, they're young, they're Lance Corporals, privates, PFCs. They don't like coffee this much. They're coming, they're taking the gunny for a walk is what they're doing. Nobody's going to pity the gunny. That's the road my brain was going down at this point. I said, nobody's going to pity the gunny. I'll be damned if these guys are going to feel sorry for me. So now I'm going to do a real genius move, and I'm going to yell at them when they come back for me. And I got my whole speech laid out in my mind. I'm going to chew some ass because I'm good at that as a gunny. So I'm going to light them up. Now, I wanted the coffee, so I let them take me there first. So we get down there to the coffee shop. Now I got to paint the scene for you because it's important for the story here. I can't see these 3 Marines, but I can picture them. They're probably missing some hardware if they've been medevac this far. They're probably just like me. They probably got hair and beard. They probably like, I didn't remember to shower since Fallujah either. They're probably like me. They're probably not smelling too good either. I had shrapnel go right through my nose. I haven't been able to smell a thing since, which is a complete blessing when you're in a course. So that's a good thing. So now I start chewing, I start lighting them up right down there in this coffee shop. This is crap. You're not going to feel sorry for the gunny. Nobody's going to pity the gunny. And they laughed right in my face. They laughed. I could feel their breath as they were just laughing. They said, no, gunny, you got it all wrong. This is where the chicks hang out. We just thought you wanted the coffee, so we bring you along. These 3 Marines were down there picking up girls, trying to. I said, I don't know how good you're going to do, but good luck, good hunting, and I'll see you tomorrow for the coffee. But they knew something that the gunny hadn't quite figured out yet. They had it figured out right from the beginning, right from Jump Street. They figured it out. They were the exact same individuals they were before they got hit. Not a thing changed on them, just the exterior decoration. That's it. The same character, the same core values, the same deviant personalities, whatever it is. They were the same individuals. Nothing had changed about them other than their equipment. Nothing had changed. Well, the gunny wasn't going to figure that out right away. Next stop for me, Balboa Naval Hospital. I get there, I go see a doctor, looks at my remaining eye, which I had managed to get back up in the eye cavity where it belongs. Still couldn't see out of it. Doctor looks in that eye, says, get used to it, gunny. You're going to be blind for the rest of your life. I said, okay, this is a 0-400 moment. I can do this. I'll figure out whatever the heck it is blind people do, and I'll get to be the best in the world at it. I can do this. This 0-400 moment, I can do this. I went to see another doctor. Next doctor looked in that same eye and said, I don't know, gunny. It's all full of blood. For all the more I know, it may come back 100%. I said, okay, forget all that best in the world blind crap. Second doctor, you're my doctor. So I'm going to new game back. Because at this point, I couldn't conceive any life other than commanding a tank. Any life other than that. Being that Marine Corps gunny. Being that, and that's how I was operating. You know, all the sights in a tank are one-eyed. I was going to move the headrest over the other side, start learning how to shoot left-handed, and I was getting back on a tank. That was my plan. Well, the truth was somewhere in between on these 2 doctors. What had happened is I'd had a pretty good-sized piece of shrapnel enter my right temple here. It went all the way across my head and ended up, that's when it blew this eye out, and ended up behind my left eye on my optic nerve. And it was resting on the optic nerve, that's why I couldn't see. It's a piece of shrapnel about the size of a .762 projectile, about half the size of your little finger. A lot of people who know me very well, they say if I had more brains, it wouldn't have made it so far, I'd be able to see just fine. But this is what it is. It's on my left eye. So I had a surgery there, and they pulled that piece of shrapnel out. So what I would end up with is 8% vision. It's 92% blind spot. It's 8% vision. In that 8%, my visual acuity is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,200 to 2,800, depending on what part of it you're looking out of. The technical term for it would be legally blind, is what I am. Okay, I went back to 29 palms. I didn't know what else to do. I checked back into my unit. Didn't go on convalescent leave. I couldn't even conceive the thought of doing something other than this. So I reported into my unit. My sergeant major says, "What the hell are you doing here, Gunny?" I said, "Reporting for duty." He said, "Well, didn't we give you convalescent leave?" I said, "Yeah, wait until I feel better to take that crap. I'm here to work." So they didn't know what to do with me. You got this guy, I mean, I'm going to be a hazard to anybody around me if I'm down there on a tank. So they put me to work in the 3 shop, S3. Now, up to this point in my Marine Corps career, I was proudly ignorant of Marine Corps paperwork. I didn't know a thing about it, didn't want to know anything about it. I wouldn't even go get an LES off a computer. I used to go tell admin, I'd say, as much work as I do for you, you can give me 13 pieces of paper a year. That's all I'm asking. You know, I'd make them print me an LES. So I didn't know anything about what they did in there. And if I did, I probably wouldn't have wanted to do it. So I went there, but I'm thinking I'm just going to keep rehabilitating until I can see better and I'm going to get back on a tank, which was a physical impossibility. But at this point, I just couldn't conceive anything else. So I started PTing, because from the neck down, I was good to go. Now, the first shot below the belt comes a battalion run. Battalion gets out there. We know these things. If you're Gunny like me, you love battalion run. All the colors are out there. Everybody's running their guidons around a unit. This is moto stuff. You're going to get out, call cadence. I'm envisioning myself calling cadence for one of the companies, H&S, which is what I was in. And so I'm out there, ready to go. And the battalion XO walks up to me and says, "Gunny, why don't you run in the back and pick up the drops?" I was like, wow. And that one hurt, because I'm the Gunny, I'm the cadence caller. I'm not in the back picking up the run drops. Was he thinking I can't keep up anymore? I mean, that one hurt. But Gunnies don't whine. Aye, sir, and back I went. You don't get to pick your mission, you just get to control how well you do it. I don't know, maybe he had me doing it just because I was good at it. Because I tell you what, if you're falling back on a run and there's some guy just got hit in the head with a grenade, comes running up on you to pick you up, I never caught one of them. They never got back to me, because I'd come after them, they'd take off. They always caught up. So maybe it was the job for me, who knows? Whatever the case, that's what I did. Now, but in the 3 shop, I didn't do anything. Now, we all know in the Marine Corps, if you're not good at something, people are not the least bit hesitant to let you know that. Until now. Nobody said a word to me. Nothing. I mean, they didn't treat me like bad, but nobody corrected me. Nobody said, "Hey, Gunny, you're a mess in here. You don't know what the hell you're doing. You're a problem." Now, that speech I had for those 3 Lance Corporals back in Bethesda, that was a speech should have been happening now. I'd spent my whole time talking about these 0 400 moments, my whole Marine Corps career, talking about those 0 400 moments. All those things I thought were my 0 400 moment, they weren't it. This was my 0 400 moment, and I didn't even know it. That truckload of explosives was driving right by me. I didn't even recognize it. Now, luckily, in the Marine Corps, you never are operating alone. And that's what saved me. That's what saved my life at this point. I'm blessed with a great family. I'm married to the same woman for coming up on 20 years now. Marine Corps wife through 3 combat deployments. Stuck by me. Was honest with me when I needed to hear some tough things. But still, I was heading down the wrong road. And it was my chain of command that came to my side. I went to church one morning at the Protestant chapel. And I always knew that, always do this. If that's a good thing to do. So I do that, and I'm walking out of the chapel, and the base general, General Zillmer, used to attend the same service. So I knew who he was, and he walked up to me, he says, "How you doing, Gunny?" "Good, sir." That's my answer, right? I'm bleeding from the jugular. "Good, sir." And he says, "Gunny, if you're having problems, you come see me. Give me a chance to fix it." And I felt like the dumbest individual on the face of the earth. I was heading down all these wrong roads. I was trying to do all these things as if somehow, because I was wounded, I wasn't still a Marine anymore. And it was that same support, those same things that kept me alive on a battlefield, that same chain of command, those same Marines around me, that now, here it was, that same family, all those things that stuck by me, always faithful, God, country, Corps. Now, they were coming back when I needed them the most. Now in my 0-400 moment when I was being told the door. And all of you have gotten a PEB, I'm assuming, if you're in here. And we all know that sting. When that piece of paper comes back, you know, you're one of the world's finest. And now a piece of paper just come back and said, you are medically unfit for continued service. I don't care who you are, that one hurts. That one hurts. And now, that's when this chain of command, that's when my family, that's when my Marine Corps brotherhood showed up and said, let us help you, Gunny. And what they taught me, the most important thing was talk's cheap. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Did I really believe it? Because those things that make you good on a battlefield, that courage, honor, commitment, all that JJ did tie buckle stuff that we were talking about earlier, all those things make you good on a battlefield, but they're not just battlefield things. They're everything in life things. And did I truly believe that? We always say, once a Marine, always a Marine. Did I truly believe it? And thanks to these support networks that were around me, that brotherhood made me realize, yes, that's absolutely true. Have the courage of your convictions and move forward in life. You don't have to stop being a Marine. You're just going to stop being on active duty. So I went forward in life. My next stop was a VA hospital. Now, I'm not Gunny anymore, I'm Nick. They said, Nick, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? I said, well, I looked at my skill set. I said, I've been a drill instructor, I've been a platoon sergeant, I've been to combat, and I thought I was reasonably good at those three things. I kind of enjoyed them. I want to be a high school teacher. They said, great. What's your degree in? I said, I got nothing. I got PhD, plain high school diploma. And oh, by the way, I can't read or write right now either. No problem. The VA hospital, they went to work with me. And now I was back in that Marine Corps world. Even though I was an active duty Marine, I was back in my Marine Corps life. Hard work equals results. I showed up at that VA hospital having a white cane to get around. I left there able to get around on my own, how to take public transportation, how to get anywhere in the world I needed to get to, in particular how to get to school to get this degree. I had to learn how to read again, learn how to write, learn how to use technology. I turned on my first computer in a VA hospital. But hard work equals results now. Everything was back to the life I had known. Now I was back, once a Marine, always a Marine. So after about 3 months in a VA hospital, my visual skills instructor, because he would test me every day on reading speed. He comes in, he says, Nick, he says, you're at 140 words per minute. That's college level reading speed. You're ready to go. I said, good to go. I went, packed my sea bag. I was ready to ship out, go to school. He came in the next day, he said, Nick, I may have overstepped it a little bit. He says 140 words per minute is actually a 6th grade reading speed, but we think with your courage and your discipline, you're going to be just fine. We're going to send you anyway. I said, good to go. And I went off to school. So now, I'm going to share one kind of parting shot here. When I was in the VA hospital, they did this thing there. They brought in a motivational speaker to speak to all of us there. And it was, remember, if you've seen the movie Rudy, it was the guy, Rudy, the guy from Notre Dame University, played in the football game. And he got up there, and I'm not trying to bag on the guy. I don't want to do that, because he was there doing a good thing. But he was talking about this football game he played when he was 25-odd years old. And he was in his 60s. And I looked at that, and it did motivate me, but probably not in the manner intended. I looked at that, and I said, man, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be in my 60s talking about the greatest thing I did in my life was 40 years ago. The best things in my life have got to be ahead of me, and I've got to believe that. I don't want to be that rummy sitting there in the American Legion still talking about Fallujah 20 years from now. So that's how I've tried to guide my life. So since that moment, I've written a book. That was the 2009 Military Writers Book of the Year. I ran for Congress, and I got a college degree, carried a 3.9, not bad for a guy with a 6th grade reading speed. So Marines, that's what I would tell you. Once a Marine, always a Marine. That skill set you have. These individuals in this room, they did it. They went to the top of the hill. That's why I love coming here. I learn something every time from all these individuals in here. And take it out there and win. Because in the hospital, what's the big word you hear? Transition. Transition. That one used to make me just ill, mad. I'd say transition into what? I like what I am right now. I like being a Marine. I don't want to be a civilian. Why the heck would I want to change into something else? So take that Marine skill set with you. No transition back. They always say transition back in the civilian world. Transition forward. Take that Marine Corps skill set, move forward. Use the knowledge in this room. Use the knowledge in this room because they've been to the top of the hill. And I come here and I listen to them like it's coming from the burning bush every time I come here. They're going to teach us how to get to the top of the hill because I'm only a couple years ahead of where you guys are sitting right now. And my goal is I'm going to be the best high school teacher in the state of California. That's my goal. So Marines, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. You older Marines, thank you for my freedom. Thank you for the Marine Corps that you passed down to my generation. And all you, Semper Fi. All right.